Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's tutorial, we're making a coat shoulder flare dress. So for the upper bodice, I'll start by marking out my starting point. Then I'm going to mark the half length. From the shoulder to the half length, I'm working with 16 inches. I'll mark 16 and a half because I'll need the half inch to attach the bodice to the flare skirt or the flare part of the dress. I'll connect that into a slant line, or I'll just connect it into a straight line. Then I'm also going to mark out my chest line. From my shoulder to chest line is 9 inches. I'll mark that out and also rule it out in a straight line. So I'll cut out from the half leg just so that we can focus on the working pattern. Right, so on the shoulder line, we're going to mark the shoulder divided by 2. Half shoulder is 16, divided by 2 gives us 8 inches. So I'll mark 8 inches here on the shoulder line. I'll mark the same thing on the chest line. Okay, so for my shoulder slope, I'm going to mark 3 inches. Then I'll connect the shoulder line together. I'll connect from the shoulder to the chest line. Okay, from the shoulder to the chest line. So afterwards, on the shoulder line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope or my shoulder slant. Then I'll connect it to the 3-inch mark that we made. Okay, so this is not your neckline. After this, you can now draft or make out the neck width that you want. Now for my neck width, I want it to be 3.5, so I'm marking out 3.5. Then for the depth, I want it to be 4 inches, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and use my cuff to make my neckline. Right, so afterwards I'm also going to impute my body measurement. So for the bust measurement, I'll divide her bust by 4. Her bust is 36, divided by 4, that gives me 9. I'll add 2 inches seam allowance. Right, so on the half length, I'm going to mark the waist divided by 4. The waist is 33, divided by 4 give me 8.25. I would add 2 inches seam allowance and 1 inch that allowance, so that's 3 inches in total. So I'll connect from the bust to the waist. At the shoulder area, I'm going to add ½ inch for shoulder joining of shoulder seam allowance. The next thing is to draft out the armhole. So I'm going to measure what I have left from my shoulder line. I'll divide whatever value I have. I'm going to divide that by 2 and mark and make a mark at that point. Okay, so then I'll come inwards by ½ inch. Then I'll connect or make my armhole cuff. So I'm just going to connect these 3 points together from the shoulder slope to ½ inch inwards to where I have my bust measurement. Okay, so I'll connect those 3 points together to create my armhole. Now this is a coat shoulder dress. What this means is that the shoulder, we're not going to be attaching a sleeve to it, right? So we don't want the shoulder area to be falling off. Okay, we don't want it to be too wide, so I'm going to reduce the shoulder area. So I'm going to come inwards by ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch. Remember that I'm also going to turn this with lining. Okay, so you don't want it to be too small, so ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch is fine. You can also do ½ inch so that you can now use your bias to taper the armhole, but for me, I want to use a lining to turn, so I'm going to recreate my armhole now. I want to explain this further. You don't want the shoulder to be sticking out, okay? You don't want excess fabric to be sticking out because it's a coat shoulder dress, so we're reducing the shoulder by just ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch, so to just slap or stay directly on the shoulder, right? So afterwards, I'll go cut out my neckline, cut my shoulder allowance, then cut through for the bodies from the waist to the bust. Then when I'm cutting, I'll make sure that I'm cutting the new shoulder like so. So there is nothing you're doing to the lower part. It is just at the shoulder area, okay? So this is for the front. I'm going to fold my fabric into 2 and mark out the starting point. Then also add my 1.5 inches zip allowance. This is for the back. Right, so I'll connect that in form of a straight line or a vertical line. You can see. So after this, I'll place the front pattern on this fabric and trace it out. Right, so I'm just placing the front on the back pattern. Okay, so making sure that every parts aligns and matches together. Now for the neckline at the back, I just want to do 2 inches neck depth for the back. So I'll mark 2 inches for my neck depth, and that's the only difference here. Okay, so I'll just connect the neckline for the back like so. So for the back, the neck width remains the same, but the neck depth changed. So I used 2 inches for the neck depth. And after that, guys, I'm just going to go ahead and cut. Now that I'm done cutting, I'll take out the front. Now for the back, I'll go and notch out my zip allowance at the upper part. At the lower part, I'm going to contour the back, okay, just so that I don't have a bulge at the zipper area. So I'll step up by 1.5 inches along the zipper area. Then I'm going to slant it to the side, okay? This way, I'm going to eliminate back puff or back bulge at the back, okay? At the zipper area. So this takes care of the zipper bulge. You're not going to have your zipper bulging at the back. So I'll just trim that out. Yeah, afterwards, I'll then go and notch the zipper allowance at the back. I'll also impute my dart. I'm marking 4.5 inches for my dart. So I'll mark that out and also go ahead and notch it. Now, when I'm done, I'll go and cut lining for the front and the back, okay? Make sure you open up your zip allowance at the back. Just slash it open. Then you go ahead and cut lining for this project. For the back, we do a little bit of calculation. I'm going to add 2 inches zip allowance to my waist measurement. So my waist is 33 plus 2, that gives me 35. I'll divide that by 3.14, which is the formula to derive a half circle. So 35 divided by 3.14 gives me 11.1. So this is my radius for the skirt. The next thing is to get the dress length, okay, or the skirt length. So to determine the skirt length, you're going to subtract the half length from the full dress length. Okay, so the full dress length is 48, while the half length is 16. So subtracting 16 from 48 gives me 32. I'll add 1.5 inches, okay, for hemming allowance and all that. So 1 inch for hemming the bottom of the skirt, then ½ inch for attaching the skirt part to the body. So that sums up 1.5. Now that gives me 33.5 in total. Now, for us to determine the amount of fabric we need to add these two figures together. So we're going to do 11.33.5. That gives us 44.5. So 44.5 is what we're going to need to cut out the amount of fabric we need. Now, so on my fabric, I'm going to get 44.5 in 2 places, okay, from the yardage of the fabric, okay. From the entire length of the fabric, I'm going to measure 44.5, just approximate that to 45, okay. I'm going to measure it in 2 places. All right, so I've measured the first time, then I'm measuring the second time. All right, so you need to get 45 in 2 places. All right, so from the yardage of the fabric, just first measure 45, then measure 45 again, then you cut it out. So when you have done that, you're not going to fold it into 2. All right, so you're going to fold it into 2 like this. So when you fold into 2, the length you're supposed to have will still be 45. Okay, remember we cut out 45 in 2 places. So when you now fold it into 2, you're going to have 45. Okay, when you measure what you have folded, you're going to have 45, right? So that is why I said 45 is what we would need, okay, to determine the length of the fabric you're folding. So when I fold and I measure, I still have around 45, right? So now we need to fold this fabric in form of a bias fold so that we can cut the half circle skirt. All right, so I'm going to now fold in form of a triangle. Folding on bias fold means folding in form of a triangle. So I'm going to get the folded edge. This is the open part, while this side is the folded edge. All right, so I'm going to get the folded edge to face the upper side of my table. Okay, this way you're going to understand how to fold. All right, so then I will just fold it like so, in form of a bias fold. Now what I'm going to do to make it easy for you is when this folded part meets the upper part of your table, okay, you're now going to get one side. Okay, you can see, just get one side of the fabric, this side of the fabric. Then you're going to take it to the lower part of the fabric. Okay, so get the upper part of the fabric and fold it to the lower part of the fabric. Okay, that's basically how you fold on bias. Okay, So just do that, and you can see I have folded my fabric in form of a bias fold. So this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to start imputing the measurements that I got. Remember that I got 11.1 for my radius, okay? So I'll just approximate that to 11 inches, right? So this is how I folded, okay? I'll do that again. Let the folded part, okay, be at the upper part of your table. Then you pick one end, okay, the upper end of the fabric, and slant it to the lower end of the fabric, okay? So for beginners in our midst, this is how to fold on a bias fold. Okay, so this is how to fold on a bias fold. Now that I've done that, we need to start imputing the radius. So the radius is 11. So from the tip of the fabric, I'm going to measure 11 inches. Okay, now what you can also do is to measure this to see that you have your 45 inches. Again, I've measured that and I have up to 45. All right, so that is to show you that we are on the right track. So from the tip of the fabric, I'm going to measure 11 inches, which is my radius. Okay, so I'll just measure 11 inches like so. I'll make a mark there. I'll also slant it, measure it all around like so. You can see 11 inches. So I'll just connect the points together. Now the next thing I'm going to mark would be the length, the skirt length. Okay, so when you measure this, you can see that it gives you your waist measurement, okay, plus your 2 inches per allowance. Now I'm going to bring this up and I'll measure my skirt length. Okay, so remember we had 33.5. Okay, so from after subtracting, we had 32 plus 1.5 inches. Okay, so that gives us 33.5. So from that 11-inch mark, I'm going to measure from there to the length of the skirt. I'm just going to measure to 33.5. So I'll measure it all around. Okay, I'm sorry that this part is not showing. Okay, so when I'm doing this, to measure 33.5 all around. Okay, all around. That's what I'm doing. I'm measuring 33.5 all around it like so. Right, so I'm really sorry that that part is not showing. I did not know. I wasn't looking at the camera at this point. So I really apologize for that. Okay, so when I do that, I'll then go and collect the points. Okay, just the way I collected the 11-inch mark that we made. Okay, so I'll just go and collect it all together. Then I'll cut it out. Okay, so I hope you're seeing a little bit of how I'm cutting it out. Okay, that is the 33.5 that I marked all around. Okay, that is what I'm cutting. Right, now towards the side, I'm just going to trim off the excess that I have around there and make sure that I don't mistakenly cut on the folded area, because that folded area is your center front. All right, so you want to make sure that you cut off the excess, but at the same time, be careful not to cut on the folded area. And I'll cut out the radius. Okay, so after that, we have the flare skirt, okay, or the half circle skirt. Guys, this is what it looks like. Right, so what I'm just going to do is to fix this to the upper bodice. Now for the upper bodice, I've cut out lining for it. So I've placed the lining right side facing right side, and I'm turning the neckline with 1/2 inch. Okay, so that's what I'm using to sew the neckline. I'll also go ahead and sew the armhole. Like I said earlier, I want to turn the armhole with lining. So I'll also go ahead and turn the armhole with lining like so. Okay, I'll do the same thing to the other side of the armhole. Now, whatever I'm doing to the front, I'll do the same thing to the back pattern as well. All right, so after doing that, I'm going to trim out the excess. Okay, I'll just go ahead and trim it out so that I don't have a bulky seam at the neckline and at the armhole. Okay, so just trim it to like 1/8 of an inch, right? Right, so the next thing I'll do would be to sew the sides, okay, so that I'll turn everything inside out and the outer side will be very clean. Okay, so I'm sewing it inwards like so. So when I'm done, I'll still go ahead and trim off the excess I have around there. I don't want any bulky seam at all. Then I'll turn it inside out, go and give it a very good press. Okay, so at this point, this is what it looks like. Very beautiful. The inside is cleanly finished. You can see very clean on the inside. Now, what I'll do next is to go and sew in my darts. Okay, so I measured the length for my dart. Remember that my bust span is 4.5, so I'll just go ahead and notch that point, then go and sew my dart. Okay, using half inch. You sew your dart using half inch. Okay, so I've marked the length for my dart, then I'll sew. All right, so do the same thing to the other side. All right, and so like I said, everything I've done here, I will repeat the same thing to the back. All right, so now we are done working on the front. This is what it looks like. We'll repeat the same process for the back. Now, after doing the back, I've joined the shoulder seam together, okay? So I've turned the neckline and the armhole for both the front and the back. You can see I've sewn the dart for the front and the back as well. Then I joined the shoulder. Now I need to taper the sides. Okay, I need to take in the sides. Okay, the body measurement. So before I do that, I need to go and hold the zip allowance. Okay, so I left zip allowance of 1.5 inches. Then after turning the zipper area with half inch, I have 1 inch left. So I'm going to mark 1 inch all around for my zip allowance. Right, so afterwards I'm going to get my pin to hold it down. You can also run a loose stitch on it, but know that you're going to loosen it later. All right, so I just prefer to hold with my pins than making a stitch on it. So after holding the zip allowance with your pins, you're going to flip the front and the back, right sides facing right sides, and you're going to take in your body measurements. Okay, so I like to take in my body measurements from the back, so I'll just go and flip this to the back. All right, so we can take our body measurement. So the bust is 36, we divide that by 2, that gives us 18 inches. So I'm going to place my tip on the side of the pattern, all right, and measure 18 inches. Okay, so from one side I'm going to go ahead and measure 18 inches. Right, so I'll make a mark at 18 inches. Then I'll measure what I have left. I have around 2 inches, so I'll divide that on 2 sides. Okay, I'll share whatever I have on the 2 sides. So like I have 2 inches, I'll share it 1 inch on the 2 sides. Okay, so that's how I take in my measurements. The waist is 33 inches, dividing by 2. Whatever I have, I'm going to measure from one side, okay, to the other side. I have around 16.75. I'll then measure what I have left for the allowance and share it equally on both sides. Okay, so this is how you take in your body measurements, and it's going to be equal on both sides. Now that I've done that, I'll go to the sewing machine and take in the body measurements. Like so. So now before I do that, from the armhole I'm going to step down by 2 inches, and that is to give me allowance to fixing my sleeve at the end of the day. So I'm going to come down by 2 inches, then I'll take in the body measurements. So guys, if you're watching till now, you're welcome. Thank you so much. If you're new here, you're welcome. If you're new here, guys, you're welcome. And if you're watching till now, thank you so much. Thank you for your continuous support here on this channel. I really appreciate it. Please, if you're new, if you love what we're doing here, consider subscribing and turn on your post notifications so that each time and anytime we upload the video, you'll be the first to be notified. Right, so I'm done doing the sewing or taking in the body measurements. So what I'm going to do is to take out my pins at this point. All right, so take out my pins, then I'm going to find the midpoint, okay, of this bodies. Okay, I'm going to find out the midpoint of the bodies, and I'm going to notch it. You can see, so I found the midpoint. You're going to place a notch at that area. You're also going to get the skirt pattern, and you're also going to find out the midpoint and also notch it. So what we're going to do is to match up the notches, okay? Then place the fabric right side facing right side. Make sure that you match up the notches, and you're going to pin it down like so. So when I pin that down, I'm just going to go ahead and pin the circle skirt to the body. So I just spin it around the bodies, and afterwards I'll go and sew using half inch seam allowance. So guys, I'm done pinning, so I'll start sewing. This is attaching the skirt part to the bodies, right? So like I said, I'm using half inch seam allowance to join, and at the same time cuddling babies and making sure that she's not crying. What a life. All right, so you're joining with half-inch seam allowance all around, like so. And guys, this is so easy. This is so beautiful. All right, so after joining that, you can see. So what I'm just going to do now is to join, hold it at the zipper area, right? So this is my zipper allowance. You can also see I've already marked it out. Okay, so from the half length, I'm going to come down by 7 inches. Okay, 6 to 7 inches from the half length. Okay, and that is where the zipper would end, right? So I'll just mark 7 inches, then I'll connect from it using a straight line. Okay, from the half length to that 7 inches using a straight line. All right, so you can see I have some excess on the flare dress. Okay, and that is because I do not want to follow the slant of the flare dress. That way it's going to slant my zipper and it's going to be looking somehow at the back. Okay, so I'm just following a straight line at the back, regardless of what I have on the skirt pattern. Okay, so that I don't have my zipper folding at the back. That is why I'm doing this, right? So I'll just go ahead and now sew from that point all the way down. So it's going to just reduce the flare a little bit, but it's nothing. Okay, so instead of following the curve of the flare, you're going to do this like so. That way you don't have your zipper folding, you don't have the back folding and all of those things that we see when we make all of these half circle or full circle dresses or skirts. Alright, so now when we are done, you can always go ahead and trim off the excess. Okay, reduce it to 1 inch, which is our zipper allowance. You can always trim off the excess that you have around that point. Okay, so this is very easy. This way you don't have any bulging at the zipper area. So you can see my zipper allowance is just straight. I'll just go ahead and fix the zipper and I won't have issues. Now the next thing is just go ahead and trim off the excess. Then you're going to hem the bottom of the dress, okay, or the skirt part. So remember we left 1.5 inches. I've used half inch to join, so the remaining half inch. So I just fold half inch in 2 places. Sorry, I've used half inch to join, so the remaining 1 inch. So I fold half inch in 2 places and hem the bottom of the skirt. Right, so the next thing is to attach our sleeve, right? So this is the time here is 2:59. That is the time I'm editing this video. I'm sleepy and I hope I'm just not talking trash. I hope I know what I'm saying. All right, so this is the sleeve. These are the sleeves. Okay, so I want to make the cold shoulder at this point. So from the slanting of the sleeve, I'm going to mark 3 inches. Now this is dependent on how much you want, how much opening you want for the cold shoulder. So towards this side, I'm marking 3 inches. Then for the dropping of the shoulder or for the dropping of the cold shoulder, I'm going to mark 3.5. You can as well do 4 inches. You can do 4 by 4 or 3 by 3, whatever works for you. But consider that less is more at this point so that you don't cut out too much. So I'll carve it out like I'll do a neckline. You can see, then I'll go and cut that out. Okay, so I'm making 3 inches by this side and 3.5 inches at this side. Also remember that you're going to turn with lining, okay, or even bias at this point. So whatever you're using, just make sure that you factor that in so that you don't cut too much, right? So I'm doing 3 by 3.5 and I want to use a lining to turn the upper head of the sleeve, okay, or the cold shoulder part of the sleeve, right? So I'm placing this on the other side of the sleeve and I'm cutting it as well. So this is the sleeve, right? This is the cold shoulder sleeve. This is what it looks like. Right, so for us to couple this sleeve together, I'm going to just cut out my lining and place it on it. Okay, I'll just use the second fabric as an example. Place the lining on the dress, right size versus right size, and you go and turn like you do a neckline. Also turn the sides and hem the bottom as well. All right, so I've worked on my sleeve. You can see I've turned the cold shoulder part with lining. I've also turned the lower part and the sides, okay, and I've also used bias to taper the armhole area. Okay, so it is looking clean and beautiful. Do you get? Right, so everything is clean now. So I'm going to get the dress. So remember that I I came downwards by 3 inches, okay, for the sleeve. Now, having turned it with my lining, it's now 3.5. So from the shoulder of the dress, I'm going to mark 3.5. That's 3.5. The same thing to the other side, 3.5. Remember, I came inwards by 3 inches, okay? But because I have turned with lining, it has reduced to 3.5. So that is why I'm marking 3.5 from the shoulder. Then I placed the sleeve on it, and I'm going to go ahead and pin it all around. You can see, pin it all around, and you go and sew. Okay? So after that, I'll just go ahead and sew it all around. Do the same thing to the other side, then close up the sleeve. And guys, this is what it looks like. Very easy, very beautiful. Okay, so just fix it. I'll come your way next time. Until then, I remain your friend here on YouTube, Noni. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye. Make sure you fixing your zipper at the end of the day. All right, so this is it. This is what it looks like. It is beautiful, giving all shades of gorgeousness, beautifulness. All right, so this is what it looks like. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, while I also enjoyed few minutes. See you. Bye bye. Bye bye. So this is the cold shoulder. Inugo.